Welcome to Costa Rica, officially the Republic of Costa Rica. This is the life about Costa Rica. To me, it's being happy. In our country, everyone is happy. And we also have very tasty food and chocolate. And the coffee is premium. We adore our coffee and our chocolates. Our indigenous roots also teach us about loving nature, respecting animals, and respecting all the people. So yeah, I hope you come to Costa Rica, some food, and enjoy gorgeous nature, beautiful women, and the best coffee beans in the world. Amazing beaches, forests, 50 shades of green, and an extremely cheap vacation paradise. This is Costa Rica, and many of you have heard of it, but you may not have a clear idea of what it has to offer. The country has rich coastlines and excellent beaches, both on its northern borders and in the south. Although it is often referred to as a tourism country, in fact, up to 55% of its income is derived from agriculture-oriented production. The most prominent of these are coffee, sugar, bananas, and cocoa products. In fact, Costa Rica is the largest exporter of these products in Central America. This is a Central American country sandwiched between Nicaragua and Panama. When you look at the map, you can see that they are located in a narrow area. You may also have heard of Nicaragua for the first time, which is another country in this geography. To the north of Costa Rica is the Caribbean Sea, while the south faces the Pacific Ocean. Rivals usually land at one Santa Maria International Airport in the capital city of San Jose. If you are landlocked, Costa Rica is also accessible by bus from countries such as Honduras, El Salvador, and Mexico. The tropical climate in Costa Rica makes it possible to enjoy beautiful weather all year round. The average year-round temperature in the country is around 25 degrees Celsius. If you want to visit Costa Rica when there is no rain, you should prefer the months between December and April. Spanish is officially spoken in the country. As in many other South American countries, the Spanish once ruled here. For example, Christopher Columbus, who landed on the Caribbean coast in 1502, called it the Rich Coast because of its gold deposits. Oh, but the Spaniards were disappointed. Contrary to popular belief, they did not find large amounts of gold in this country. On the contrary, the country they discovered turned out to have extremely poor underground resources. The indigenous people of the country today were migrants from places like Guatemala and made a living through farming and hunting. Later they explored the slopes of the mountains and realized that they were ideal for growing coffee. It was not until 1821 that Costa Rica gained its independence and was freed from Spanish control, and thus ended nearly 300 years of Spanish rule. Today, Costa Rica is one of the happiest countries in the world in Life Index happiness rankings. Although Central American and South American countries suffer from economic unhappiness, Costa Rica has always managed to rank among the top 15 happiest countries in the world. The country today has a surface area of 51,000 square kilometers, and only 5 million people are registered as living in the country. 80% of these people are of Christian origin. The remaining 15% are a mixed Indo-European ethnic group, and the last 5% are descendants of people of African descent. Today, there are only 4 tribes in Costa Rica that have preserved their identity, language, and culture. The rest live according to the requirements of the modern age. Day by day, Latin Americans are evolving more and more towards a European style of living, and are moving further and further away from their traditions. For example, the trends they follow, the clothes they wear, and the traditional rituals have become meaningless to them. In addition, gambling and one-night stands in exchange for money are mostly ignored and allowed by the government. As a result, Costa Rica attracts millions of pleasure seekers, especially from the United States and Canada. Because of this, gambling and nightclub businesses have opened many businesses in these sectors in the country. To go even further, some police officers in Costa Rica even allow people to drive drunk. You can see drunk people driving on the roads of Costa Rica. So if you leave a nightclub in this country drunk and get in your car and drive off, the traffic police consider this normal and usually do not fine you or confiscate your license. In addition, until 2000 the country did not even have road signs. Traffic rules started to develop in the country in the last 25 years. You may be thinking that such freedoms require a heavy military presence in the country, but Costa Rica is one of the 23 countries in the world without an army. Yes, since 1948, there has been no military force in this country. So, how do they ensure their external security? This is where the United States of America comes in. Costa Rica's external security is completely under the control of the United States. Therefore, no one can easily do anything to this country. I don't think it is necessary to explain how great a power the United States is, not only in terms of external security but also within the country. Costa Rica is undoubtedly one of the safest and most livable countries in Latin America today. Education in Costa Rica is completely free. The country ranks first among Latin American countries in terms of literacy, and medicines are available free of charge from pharmacies. We can also say we have very beautiful nature. We are also located between the Caribbean Sea and the Pacific Ocean. We can also say that we have a very good health system. Actually, Costa Rica is rated among the best health systems in the world, and is actually the best one in Latin America and Central America. The country generates 98% of its electricity from renewable energy sources. Because Costa Rica has a well-developed hydroelectric power system, as well as geothermal resources, windmills and solar panels, the country is a natural paradise. The water flowing in the rivers is said to be completely potable and healthy. In other words, people living in this country, especially in rural areas, never pay for the water sold in supermarkets and meet their water needs from nature. Also, if you go into a public restroom in a shopping mall, you will see that the urinals do not have automatic flushes. In order to save water, Costa Ricans have chosen not to put water systems in the urinals. If you want to go to the country and see situations like this, you can make visa-free tourist visits to Costa Rica from almost every country. In fact, middle-aged and elderly Canadians, Europeans and Americans are starting a second life in this country for good. For example, if a financially well-off, mature person wants to choose between a cold European country and Costa Rica is the most likely choice. This is because in Europe, the sun does not shine for most of the year. It can be rainy even in summer and people have to wear jackets. The days in Europe are short, and the weather can often get so bad that you catch a cold. Fruits and vegetables don't taste as good because of the cold climate, and in terms of social services, you have to deal with laborious procedures and paperwork. All this wears people out and takes up a lot of their time. Costa Rica has a year-round warm climate, sunny weather, clean blue beaches, low crime rates, and almost every kind of fruit and vegetable grows naturally in its most delicious form. Even if the world system collapses, this country would be one of the last countries to experience famine and hunger. Because in Costa Rica, no matter what you plant in the soil does not victimize you and offers you plenty of food. Honestly, I don't think a person living in Costa Rica will ever starve to death because this geography is so fertile that it is a food paradise in every sense. The soil is very fertile, and if you look at the people, most of them are overweight, and there are almost no skinny people. You can survive here for a long time on coconuts alone. You can also invest in the country and buy land and build your own mansion in the lush green landscape. You can send your children to school for free. You can take medicines without worrying about your health insurance. In this way, Costa Rica is a more livable place than developed European countries. But of course, as in any country, you can get negative impressions. For example, when you walk through the streets of the capital, you may smell bad odors or see garbage scattered on the streets. Unfortunately, when local people can't find a toilet if they urgently need to go to the toilet, they may use the street. This causes bad odors there. In this sense, when you go there for the first time, you may be very surprised and shocked. Especially after midnight, many people urinate on the street due to the effects of alcohol. There is also no free social housing or free travel. If you don't feel like working here, the state will not provide you with benefits. From this point of view, European countries such as Sweden, Norway, and Switzerland have a much better understanding of the welfare state than Costa Rica, and technically there are no poor people. Salaries in Costa Rica average around $700 a month. If you take a look at the people, you can see that many of them live off the fresh produce grown in the country's excellent climate. Remember that in Panama, 2 men over 50 years of age were selling fresh fruit from the local farm and were able to survive. Costa Rica is like this, and people are not generally unemployed. However, the country has been developing continuously for the last 40 years, and is already much more advanced than many Latin American countries. Costa Rica also has one of the highest literacy rates in the world. Almost everyone can speak English, even though the official language is Spanish. In fact, there are people from all over the world who have come to Costa Rica and built their homes there. There is no shortage of international companies, and many tourists visit here. Nevertheless, life in Costa Rica is cheaper than in developed countries, and the population is relatively small compared to other Latin American countries. There are also many people with disabilities, even in buses or on streets, where you can see things that you might not come across in Europe. However, Costa Rica is safer than other Latin American countries, and the locals are very friendly, which is a big plus. This ranking may not appeal to you, but you can easily see that other Latin American countries are hovering around the top 10. According to this table, the country has 54 crimes per 100,000 inhabitants, which is not bad at all. In Costa Rica, people with a monthly income of around $300 usually prefer to live in the countryside. Those who earn less than $100 a month head to the mountains of Costa Rica, where there is no electricity or running water. This may sound like an exaggeration, but it is true. Costa Rica today has over 5 million inhabitants, and more than 100,000 people across the country live in the mountains and even in the jungle, without electricity or water. One of the main problems with the country is how moderate your view of nature is. For example, if you are going to live in a detached house there, you may have lots of spiders or reptiles crawling around your house. Even the corners of houses and electrical sockets are often covered with cobwebs. If you are disgusted by the little creatures, you should forget about living in the countryside in Costa Rica, and move to an apartment in the capital city of San Jose. Although driving in the capital, San Jose is much calmer than in the Middle East and South Asia, a European traveler might find Costa Rica's traffic horrendous. Some locals in the country can drive like a race car. Even in the capital, you can often encounter potholes while driving. If you are not professional enough in driving, it is very likely that you will have an accident in Costa Rican traffic. Even in the countryside, let alone in the capital, driving can be a torture. One thing is clear about the country: the roads are of very poor quality and need a complete overhaul. Some citizens in the country say that the government in Costa Rica has received aid from developed countries to improve the country's infrastructure and repair various services, but they are not receiving services. According to them, politicians in the country are corrupt, and politicians can use the resources allocated for the country for their own purposes. For example, they complain that in some parts of the country, roadworks and constructions have been going on for more than 10 years, and the work is never finished. Also, if you go to a local restaurant in the capital and it has a much more special design than a corporate establishment, you should definitely ask for a menu and see the prices. Some places can charge you outrageous prices after your meal. For example, a meal for 2 people can easily cost $50. Even in the United States and Europe, you can enjoy more amazing restaurants for $50, while in a local restaurant in Costa Rica. These prices raise questions. If you want to go to Costa Rica and eat cheaply, there are hawkers on the streets, just like in Colombia and Mexico. When you take a look at the food they make, you will see that they make food that everyone consumes as ordinary. But they fry a lot in the country. They fry almost everything. A lot, and float it in a lot of oil. Therefore, you should not expect much hygiene and healthy food while eating street food there. Hotels in the country generally work in the concept of a resort. The average room rate of a clean hotel in a green area varies between $40 and $50 per night. If you wish, you can enjoy a pool or hammock at the hotel, or explore a green area like you've never seen before. Or you can rent bicycles in the neighborhood close to your hotel, and go for a ride around your location. In this sense, the services offered in Costa Rica are reminiscent of Bali Island in Indonesia, and you feel like you are in Bali. There is also the fact that many European and American men who go to Costa Rica after 50 start a relationship with young Costa Rican women who want to improve their situation. There are young people in Costa Rica who want to live a higher standard of living, and the key to getting them out of the country and into more developed countries is to have an adult U.S. relationship. That's why in Costa Rica, in the capital and in the beach areas, you can see foreign older men and young women cozying up to each other. I think Americans should not fall into this trap and be wary of women who are money hunters in Costa Rica. Bananas, like tropical fruits, are also used in cooking and are an important source of food. When people get bored of this kind of food, they go to the banks of rivers and lakes and try to fish from the shores or from boats. Costa Rica has a map that opens to the sea from both the south and the north, which is why fish consumption is very common in the country. Perhaps one of the most important reasons why people here live a healthy life well into their 80s is that they eat a lot of fish and use vegetables in a natural way. So, how can these people be happy despite the country's failures without money? The most important reason, of course, is that they are in a good position on the map and in a fertile geography. For example, a family there, no matter how poor they are, can say to their spouse, "Let's go to the beach and get some." Or people can listen to music and dance with their friends in simple places and choose to watch a soccer match, one of the country's most important sources of entertainment. In addition, because the climate is extremely fertile for fruits and vegetables to grow easily, people are able to reap abundant crops from whatever they plant. So there is no hunger problem in the country. Summers in the country are not unbearably hot and winters are not freezing cold. Living in Costa Rica, you can spend the whole year in short-sleeved t-shirts and you probably won't get sick. Factors like these make life in Costa Rica truly stress-free and livable. There is also diversity among ethnic groups in the country. For example, on the Pacific side, that is in the southern and western parts of the country, you will find more people with light skin color in the eastern and northern parts of the country. You will see more black or darker people, as we have already mentioned. Costa Rica is a mixed society with immigration from both Europe and Africa as well as the indigenous peoples of Latin America. Therefore, you will not meet people with a single ethnic face, but a variety of people with different skin colors and ethnic body types. For example, the country is divided into states, and the minimum wage for those living in the state of Bava is 371 US dollars. A principal in a good school in this state can earn a monthly salary of up to $2,000. Speaking of school, education in Costa Rica is compulsory and covered by the state until the 9th grade. In other words, it is free. The good thing is that no matter how remote a Costa Rican lives, the government builds a school there. It is even said that there are schools in Costa Rica with only one student for a comfortable life in the country. You can rent very good houses for $500 a month, and with the rest of your salary you can declare your own kingdom in Costa Rica. In other words, educated people and civil servants are in a more qualified class in this country. The people who earn the minimum and are happy with the pure Aveda philosophy are usually rural agricultural workers and urban cleaners. The monthly net income of a taxi driver in Costa Rica, for example, is roughly equivalent to $1,000 US. Of course, it is a fact that finding a job is not common in the country. Business owners use the economic crisis as an excuse not to create jobs for young people in the country. The country's tourism potential is also low, so young people in Costa Rica are unable to achieve their materialistic dreams in this country. For example, even if an employer provides a work environment for a young person, they offer a monthly salary of around $200, which is below the minimum wage. Naturally, Costa Ricans do not accept these salaries, but employers always have a second solution because the citizens of Nicaragua right next door to them will unconditionally accept anything to get those jobs. For example, a barista hired to work in a coffee shop may also have to clean the workplace and even clean the restrooms in the shop. This man works alone in the coffee shop, making coffee and serving it to customers. In addition to that, he says he has to take care of the restrooms, obviously. Even in the most backward countries, this kind of treatment of workers is no longer the case. But in a place like Costa Rica, which is in the middle of nature and is considered one of the happiest countries, it is sad that these working conditions exist. Considering that families in Costa Rica are usually extended families and live in a small area, unemployment is one of the biggest problems in the country. The current unemployment rate in the country is 18%, which means that 1 out of every 5 people is unemployed. It must also be said that the use of weed is disproportionately condoned in this country. People roll them up with cigarettes and smoke them, and there is no serious enforcement action in the country. To summarize, Costa Rica is truly a country for those who love tranquility, a good time with wild creatures, especially iguanas, and want to eat naturally at a cheap price. If you are earning around $1,000 every month, the unemployment problem in the country will not have a negative impact on your quality of life. Many warm people there will be eager to meet you. In this video, we have discussed both positive facts about Costa Rica and sad facts about the country. If you liked the video, you can like it and subscribe to the channel for free to be informed about our new videos. Goodbye.